Yes, listening to the children play outside. And then normally you would hear someone yell out of the house. If y'all children don't get your butt in this house, y'all know them street lights are about to come on. Get in this house. I was trying to find an effect that said all that, but I couldn't, so I had to go with me saying it. Welcome to Yemimah's World, the Djelimusa's Cafe. I'm your host with the most. I am Yemimah, and it is good to be black in the land of the living once again. So tonight's episode is going to be real sweet, real short, I should say. Not sweet, but short. So, remember, I was talking about back in the day, or black in the day, when you would be outside playing and your mom would tell you to get in that house, or before you even went outside to play, she would tell you, yeah, you can go play, but make sure you get your behind in this house before those street lights come on. Y'all remember that? I don't remember it because I never experienced that. Now, don't take my black card. Let me explain. I was born and I lived in the South, the rural South. We lived out in, I don't want to say the suburbs, but we lived outside of town because we had animals. So we didn't have street lights. We had the sun, the moon, and the stars. That was our lights. Now, I do remember my brothers used to play basketball at night, and they used to park the car in front of the goal and would put on the low beam light so that they could see what they were doing. But other than that, we ain't had no lights out there. So I didn't experience my mother ever telling us, hey, you better be in this house before the street lights came on. But from what I understand, it's part of black culture. It's part of something that we all can identify with, even if we never had it happen to us. We kind of like, oh, yeah, I remember, even though we don't. Kind of like the Mandela effect, I guess. So I was thinking about that today. And the reason was because I had a conversation with a family member. So is it possible that scenario of your mother telling you to get in the house before the street lights come on stemmed from slavery? I know what you're thinking. Yemimah? No, it didn't stem from slavery because they ain't had no street lights back then. That is true. Not at the beginning of slavery, but towards the end, they did have lanterns on the streets. They may not have had the street lights like we have today, but they did have lanterns. Now, I don't think anybody would go around and put out all the lanterns at a specific time. So what did they do? How did they get black folks to get their behinds in the house? I'll tell you how they did it. They used to ring a bell at the courthouse. They rang it twice a day. They would ring the bell at noon to signify that there was a shipment of Africans and they were ready to be auctioned off. And so when people heard the bell ring and they wanted to go and enslave some Africans, they would go to the courthouse and get ready to bid on them. Then they would ring the bell a second time in the evening when the sun was starting to set. They would ring it then to let black people know the sun is about to set. Get your black ass in the house. Now, that was for those that were enslaved and for those that were free. And I know what you're thinking. Well, the slaves was on their plantation. They weren't in town. You need to study your history. Because there were several reasons and many reasons for an enslaved person to be off of the plantation. Hence, the reason that they needed a pass. Every time they left the plantation, they had to have a pass. And if they were free, then they had to have their freedom papers. Sometimes if they were blacksmiths, they would be in town working, especially around the courthouse. They would be making sure they were shoeing horses and making horseshoes for the attorney's horses. And if they were female, sometimes they would be in town or off the plantation to deliver a baby if they were midwives, black and white. Because white women use black midwives just as much as black women did. And so they would ring the bell in the evening. Now, I don't know if it was different times based on the time change. I don't even know when they started doing this daylight savings time. So I can't say what it was. I just know that when it started to get dark, then they would ring the bell to let them know. So my family member that lives in North Carolina, in a small town in North Carolina, she says they still ring the bell. They still ring it at noon to remind black folks in that town, hey, we used to sell y'all at this time of the day. They still ring it in the evening when it starts to get dark to remind the black folks in that town, I know it's 2024, but get your ass in the house. Because the police officers that used to be patty rollers, allegedly, are hunting for you. So get your ass in the house. So what did it morph into after that? Because I'm sure it's not the only town that still uses a bell to ring. So what other ways did they have to do that before it got to the streetlights? Well, let's see. After emancipation, and then you have the Reconstruction, and then you have the Black Code laws, and you have the Jim Crow laws, and you have civil rights coming up. So what we have after emancipation and all of that, we have sundown towns. So they just simply use nature. They just use the sun. So when the sun starts to set, get your black ass out of town. Yeah. And now it has morphed into the streetlights. And so here we are in the 21st century, 2024, and white people still control when black people can be on the streets and when they can't be. I bet y'all didn't even know that. We think we're free. They still have such a hold on us in ways that we don't even realize. Now, I know that black parents are telling their children, to get in the house because of that reason, because it's not safe to be out there, after dark. But we don't realize that the reason that we're saying that and doing that is because of the power that white terrorists have over us and still do to this day. We just think that we're, keeping our family safe. No, we're still kind of bowing down to the white power structure. And it's sad. It's really, really sad. But again, we got to keep our children safe. And I understand that. So I just want to come on real quick to just drop those nuggets about what we used to do back in the day and why we did it back in the day and why we still do it today. We black today and we still do it today. So yeah, next time, mama, you scream out the door and tell your kids to get in the house, or grandma, you scream out the door, remember that your ancestors did the same thing, except it wasn't when the streetlights came on. It was the bell ringing. Yeah. Wow. All right, people. So I got to go, and I'll be back soon with another episode of Black in the Day and drop some more nuggets. Until then, peace, stay black, and stay safe.